school was a challenge. I had something I always call my canon event in my senior two, where
At the age of 15, what really prompted you to start looking for money at that age?
you can't just be there and you can't just be there. You have to at least be known for something.
What made you take this non-linear journey into, saying that, okay, actually I want my journey to go in this direction?
Given the disadvantages we have as a community, as a country, I would not recommend someone not to go to school and study and actually try to achieve, because it does help.
For someone who says, okay, I'm into gaming, but where do I even start in terms of like monetizing that skill, right?
If you're playing in the creative industry, for you to actually make it, you have to be within the top 1% of individuals. Build a lot of knowledge about this industry because it's vast, it's wide. Community has to be within your company structure. I would not want to be part of your band and love it more than you. I don't think that makes sense. What's good, everyone? Good evening. Yeah, thank you for coming, and let's get into it.
Cool. So as I said earlier, this is the StartHub Africa Founders Spotlight. It happens every first Friday of the month, right? And the main goal or intention of this meetups is to basically get inspired, understand, and also learn from the people who are in certain spaces that are doing really inspirational work. Cool. So I think we're going to start with a brief presentation about Arudem, what they do, and after that, after you get some background, we'll jump straight into our talk. So Ivan, over to you.
Hi again, my name is Ivan. I've done a bunch of stuff over the past 10 years, and I thought it would be good to give you guys a bit of context of who I am as an individual. Then we can go ahead and look at what Arudem is. I built my first venture at 15 with a couple of friends who I actually see in the crowd. So Maurice, TB, Wagon. It's good to see you guys here. We used to run, during high school, there's this thing where we used to have like parties during the holidays. So I think for me, that was one of my first ventures. And this was an initiative from, one of my friends, and they got me in that process. So we'd host like a few private club parties during the holidays and charge people to come around. So that kind of kickstarted my entrepreneurship journey. Then fast forward, I got a chance to build Men in Action. Men in Action was a community-led brand focused on traditional sports. The sports on focus was rugby. So again, we also used to host traditional rugby events during the holidays. Previously, if you're in schools like Namiliango, SMAC, Budo, I'm sure rugby was a bit of a thing. So we found that we were limited to the particular school you're in. So I, for one, and a few people realized that rugby was a bit mainstream and it had a bit of a fan base within and outside school. So we decided to start hosting private events whereby individuals were not only tied to the schools they were from, but they were able to play with some of their friends. So that kind of built a bit of hype, because at the end of the day, you'd find that I could have teammates within school, but I have better chemistry with a friend of mine in SMAC, a friend of mine in Budo. So it would make sense us coming together, formulating a squad, start playing. So we used to host these events, charge people to come around, get a few sponsorships here and there. And I think that's how we made our first 10 million. We were able to, our last event, which we held after Form 6, during our Form 6 vacation, we were able to do something. We hoped that we would actually pick up with rugby down the road, but there were a few restrictions, especially around the union. Finding a sport like rugby, it's massively worldwide. It has a massive, strong union, especially because it's a rough game. So you find that there are a bunch of rules. So our last event, we had an incident where a player broke his hand, and the parents didn't know, and they took him to hospital and all that. So you find that the union had to put a pause on these private games that were being held by, school-going children. So it was a bit hard to continue that endeavor. But we're able to build a community there of about 1,000 plus individuals. And I think for me, that gave me massive exposure when it comes to community building and, trying to create a concept and build and convert revenue from the community that you've built. During school, I started a project called Alpha Production. This is just to give you guys a bit of some of the things I've worked on, so I get a bit of my background. Alpha Production was a junior achiever program that we had during school that I, along with some people, were able to scale to Company of the Year. Again, this was also during school. Then, fresh out of school, the first thing I did was I did a graphics design course. This graphic design course enabled me get my first job at a printery where I worked as a sales and marketing representative for about 1 or 2 years. I really went deep into product design and packaging, and that's something I plan to pick up on with Arudem later on as we go. Some of the studies I've done, I kind of didn't do the traditional school. I went straight into graphics design and did a small course somewhere in Chikoni. I was able to get my first job and didn't get that opportunity or didn't have that massive desire to pick up university. But down the road, I was able to find a few certificates online from Harvard that I was able to do specific to innovation and entrepreneurship. So academically, that's how I stand. I've also played Call of Duty. I know most of you have heard of Call of Duty as a game, but I go to play it professionally and did make a bit of money from it and also made a few friends along that. And that also led me to founding Arudem, which is now a 5,000 community plus member group that we have managed to build for about 7 years now. Then I'm also working on an R&D effort. It's something in the works, but I think research and development in Uganda is still lacking, and we're trying to see how best we could tap into that. But I may not go so deep into the R&D part, and I think our focus today will be Arudem. So maybe we could go into the next slide. So yeah, what is Arudem? Personally, for a bit of context, majority of you know this as a gaming brand, for those that have been watching us. But there's quite a lot more we do more than just gaming, but a lot of it stems from gaming. So many individuals out there, when they think about gaming, when they look at gaming, they more or less contrast it with the entertainment aspects only. Or maybe you have a gaming sport where individuals come around and pay to play or something of the sort. That has always been the traditional norm. And also me getting into this industry, that's what I found. But we did realize that gaming plays a massive role when it comes to the technology space. Gaming has been one of those consistent benchmarks when it comes to new technologies. If you look at things like blockchain was a concept that was derived from a game like God of War, which had an in-game economy where you had to collect coins, and that transitioned into the blockchain was kind of built off that concept. We have things like Discord, which is a common platform now that's being used within the crypto and Web3 space, which was avidly created for gamers. We have platforms like Twitch, which has also now embedded into the streaming culture. I'm sure you've heard of people like Kai Senant, iShowSpeed. Those are individuals that have leveraged off what gaming created. When I come to tech, if you're around the AI space and you've tapped into GPUs, when it comes to graphics processing power, that was tried and tested within the gaming space. Concepts like VR, virtual reality, again, most of these ideas were picked up from gaming. So gaming has a bit of a side to it beyond just entertainment that maybe I'll be able to share it down as we look at some of the products. So yeah, we're founded in 2019 to represent modern day gaming in East Africa. So we're an East African brand. We're not just focused here in Uganda. We've managed to build markets within East and West Africa. Primarily, those are some of our areas of focus. We started as a gaming community. Arudem kicked off as a WhatsApp group of Call of Duty players. And I think there were only Call of Duty players in Uganda, about 5 individuals who used to play Call of Duty religiously and online. Individuals who used to participate in Call of Duty as an e-sport beyond just casually playing it. So that's how we actually started. During COVID, the group was made, and that's one of the ways in which we used to communicate. But then, fast forward, that became a company, and we've now tried to build a platform for innovation with focus on creative technologies. So a bunch of people I've met do think we're in the tech space, but I think we're a creative brand. I think our backbone is creativity. By virtue of that, first individuals who were part of the Arudem team were creatives. One of our first members when it comes to human resource was a graphics designer. And that's because we believed a lot in the power of brand and how we present ourselves. And one of the struggles we had over the years was we're wondering, are we a creative enterprise or are we in the tech space? But then we kind of zeroed down, I think last year, that, we're in the creative technologies industry. And I think moving forward, we shall have maybe a bit of a deeper discussion around creative technologies, but I think it's an area that majority of individuals should be looking at, especially if you're native to tech, but you want to scale that up a bit more. Yeah, so Arudem combines creativity, technology, and community. These are our core three pillars. And as we are planning, whatever we do, we always look at it from an aspect of creativity, tech, and community. Yeah, so our tagline, you're more than a gamer. Again, at the end of the day, we're trying to show individuals that, yes, we are gamers, but there's quite more we do. Sometimes it's hard to walk into a room. Most of the events that I used to attend here in Uganda for entrepreneurs and various individuals organizing events, it was always hard to come and talk about what we do, because when you say you're a gamer, there's a bit of a stereotype around it. So it was super hard for you to get a seat at the table. But we kind of persevered, and we found our voice at the end of the day. And I'm glad that we're able to come up with particular focuses. One, which is gaming and esports, something we've built massive knowledge and experience in over 7 years. We are now tapping into the areas of interactive experiences and game development. I'll explain that a bit more as we go. Then lastly, we have high performance hardware. So maybe we'll look at gaming and esports first to kind of give you a bit of a deep dive. So how we have looked at gaming far beyond just entertainment. One, we have looked at it from an esports perspective, in that we have esports teams that compete around the world. For over 7 years, we've participated in a bunch of events, tournaments within areas like West Africa, the US, looking at games like FIFA, Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty Mobile, and we've kind of built a community around that as we have gone. We've also hosted and held local tournaments here, focused up on particular games and particular communities, and we plan to do that even more this year. We've been more or less doing a bit of testing and R&D before we launch out some of these products, because there are a lot of intricacies that come that are very specific to this industry. And sometimes when you find a market like Uganda, not everything is automatically applicable. But esports is one of the verticals that we focus on. The second, when it comes to gaming, is that we're using gaming as a community building tool. Gaming has enabled us create a database of people. I'll use hubs as an example. Most hubs have always found an issue when it comes to attracting individuals. And for us, it came easy. Why? Because we used something that's natural to most guys. And this taps into even a younger demographic. Getting a 13-year-old to come and attend a particular creative event or a skilling program would be a bit challenging, because there's nothing that's attracting these individuals. So I've leveraged off the power of gaming to attract these individuals at a younger age. Our youngest community member is called Lionel. I believe he's 12, and he studies, I think, at a BSK. This is an individual who can assemble a computer. This is an individual who can build a Minecraft map. That means he can do a bit of layering and texturing at his age, at the age of 11. So you find that if you use gaming to kind of pull in this talent at that age, there's quite a lot more they can do. It exposes this younger demographic quite a lot. You may find a child sitting down playing Minecraft, but there's a lot they're learning, especially when it comes to things like design. There's a bit of architecture in Minecraft, because you have to build maps. There's a bit of a social aspect to it, and social relations are built off such a game. So that's how we're leveraging gaming. One, to build community, and to also do quite some work in the esports side. On the community front, we're using that to build our talent pool, build our database, and that has enabled us leading to our next product, which is Arudem Creators. So if you look at the team we've managed to build over these years, all these individuals have come from the community we have built through our gaming efforts. So Arudem Creators is now a platform where we are able to offer more value to our community far beyond just entertainment. Gaming is the entertainment pillar that pulls them in, that attracts them to the brand, and they get part of this community. You find someone at an esports event and they're like, hey, I want to be part of your community. Then you find out, okay, what more do you do? And then he tells you, I'm a graphics designer. I code. I can design a website. I'm into digital art and things of that sort. I'm an animator. So you find that we realize that why not build a platform where these individuals can relate to the brand far beyond just entertainment, but also from an aspect of something that taps into their skill set and something they're interested in. Because we really wanted to have, to kind of render more value to our community. We thought that someone just coming to our event and, them just having a bit of fun, which is really okay. But we thought that by virtue of where we are, we're in a third world country, and there's quite a lot that this country needs, and someone makes it that entertainment is a luxury. So we thought that it would be very selfish of us to have this database of individuals, and we can't kind of pivot them in a direction, mentor them in a particular direction around something they're really good at and around something they love. So that's how Arudem Creators came to be, and we've pivoted it into being a platform where we get to build experiences for brands. One of our first projects will be launching it this year. So beyond just the game development, we get to build digital metaverse experiences for brands. So a brand like MTN can reach out and say that would love to create a metaverse that our clients can maybe consume at a particular activation we're having. So we get to design this in-game, and then individuals worldwide can access it and consume it. So those are some of the experiences we're building. And like I said, we're able to build these experiences stemming from the individuals that we have picked from our community. So Arudem Creators right now is mainly focused on creating digital metaverse experiences for those that need it. We shall be launching a few projects this year that if you keep up, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about, because some of the words are a bit, this is a new industry, so most words are not yet broken down. The terminology is still a bit complex. But once we put out a product and we show you how it works and we show you what it does, it will be simpler for you to kind of get a bit of an idea. So that's what Arudem Creators is focused on. Then one of our last products that personally I'm really excited about, especially because of where the world is right now, is Origami. Origami is focused on one thing and only one thing: hardware. We have so many software developers in the country. We have so many individuals that study software and look at, or maybe say IT from a software perspective, but there are very few individuals that look at it from a hardware perspective. So over the years, most of the things we wanted to do with Arudem Creators and also gaming needed high performance hardware. So we went a step further because we realized that this is not a service and a solution that's provided locally. We decided to start building computers and high-end compute. So individuals that are doing these are actually used more, I think, in a case that you may all relate with. If you're developing an AI, and you're building an AI and you want to train it, you need such compute. I'm sure you've heard of a company called NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA is one of our main sources of component, which we call the GPU. So we get to build these locally, and we get to supply them to a bunch of companies within Uganda also, and we also get to use them ourselves. Some of the companies are like media companies like NBS, a few architect firms, a few cybersecurity firms that need this compute, that need this high processing power, and also GPUs. But then also gamers, creatives, animators, 3D artists, they're also leveraging off this tech. So we're planning to scale this a bit more, especially the AI boom, to see what more we can do. And I think it's really interesting that we get more individuals that are pivoting towards hardware, because there's a massive gap. And not just here, but even within East Africa. Most of this compute is imported. And when it's imported, you can't customize it. But here's a situation where you want a particular PC performing a certain way. You come and request and let us know what exactly you're looking at in terms of performance, and we're able to assemble and build that for you. So some of the clients that we're starting to get are mainly around the AI dev space, because like I said, when you're building some of these models, you need massive compute. And that's why you see valuations of companies like NVIDIA has massively peaked over the past few months. So it's an interesting space. I advise a bunch of you to jump into, especially if you're into tech. Patch it up with a bit of what you're doing in software, because it gives you more knowledge of how to implement practically. So I think that's one of our other verticals: gaming, Origami, and creators. Yeah. Yes, some of our partners here, we have Multiplex Limited, which has been a company that has been within Uganda for the past 40 years. And they mainly help us out when it comes to some of the infrastructure, some of our offices, building, and they also were one of our founding companies. They helped us out at our inception. They believed in us and they were willing to take a chance on what Arudem was and what Arudem would be. Then we have Blockart. Blockart Creatives is, to me, one of the most successful Web3 and NFT companies in East Africa. And I think they've done quite a lot in that space. And we look at them and mainly work with them when it comes to the NFT front and understanding the NFT space. Then when it comes to compute, there's a good friend of mine who runs a particular hardware company called GeForce Arena that we partner with on that front. Yeah, I think we could move ahead. Yeah, just some of the brands we've worked with over the years. You can see a few familiar logos. And yeah, so these are two creative spaces. So like I said, a lot of what we do is community focused. So you find that we need hubs where we can meet these individuals and get to do what we do. So one of the spaces we have is called the Arudem headquarters, a name that I've tried to find, but my team has refused to adjust. I feel like headquarters is a bit, but yeah, the Arudem headquarters. So this is where the admin team sits. Most of our admin works happen at this space. They're both in Bugolobi. Then this is Arudem Hangout. Now the Hangout came to life because we realized that we used to have individuals come around from the community to this particular place. And most times they'll be underwhelmed because of the vibe, how we'd receive them. So we decided let's come up with a secondary location where our community members can come around, where we could run a few workshops, where we could train a few, train a few individuals regardless of what they're looking at within the industry. So these two spaces are primarily the areas that we focus on when it comes to most of the activities we do, IRL. So you can always come in here. They're all equipped with compute, in case you want to game, in case you want to build, in case you're looking for high performance compute and you want to know how this also works more technically. So you could visit any of the two locations. This is within Design Hub, Fast Sports Fusion at the top. Then this is also within Bugolobi. But primarily, I think for individuals who would love to come around, I would recommend passing by the Hangout. So here's the community, like I mentioned, about 5,000 individuals. Focus areas, East and West Africa. We're hoping to grow that down the road. And these are some of the events we've been having, both within Uganda and also outside Uganda. So yeah, we're really grateful for, and I see a few familiar faces here. So guys who are part of this community, we appreciate you guys for standing up and showing up. And we hope to keep doing the best for you. Yeah, so in case you want to follow us on LinkedIn, we try our best to have a massive online presence. We are a digital first brand, and that's something that we go super hard on. So in case you want to follow us and see some of the stuff we're doing, Arudem Gaming for the gaming related stuff. Then we have Arudem Creators for individuals that are more interested in the developer space. And our two locations, like I mentioned. Then we have a series that we put up called The Humble Startup. For anyone interested in watching our journey and seeing some of the things we have done over the years, The Humble Startup is a docu-series that we document. I think we're going to season 3, whereby you get to know most of the things that we've been talking about, give our community a bit of the behind the scenes. I think that's something most startups should pick up on. Building in public is massively important, especially where we're going. And I also think the authentic aspect of branding really comes through vlog style content. So the Humble Startup is a piece that we originally created and we shoot. We have a recap of every month, documenting a lot of what we do. So you can check that out on our YouTube and give a bit of a feel of most of our work. So yeah, quickly went through that and
for the insightful presentation there. Amazing. Yeah. So I think the first question that I would be curious to ask is, at the age of 15, it's not usual that people start building businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And it's out of different reasons usually. So what really prompted you to start looking for money at that age?
Can I be honest? I don't think it was a money thing. Yeah. I think we just wanted to look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the truth. I don't think there was any entrepreneurial mindset at that age, to be honest with you. We were from a school whereby we're in Amilango. And there's a thing of you can't just be there you can't just be there. You have to at least be known for something. So we're struggling in sports, we're doing so well, our bodies are not yet shaped. So it was like Form 2, Form 3. So you find that we had to be known for something.
Yeah.
And we just decided to why don't we just start hosting these events because it was a thing that previous years maybe were doing.
Yeah.
So we decided to start having, you book out a place. Some of the places we booked out were like K Club and, market it during the school term. Guys come around. We didn't even focus on the money. I don't really remember how much we made during that process. But all I remember is that we had people coming around. And I think for me, one of my friends keeps talking about this is the social capital we gained then has massively contributed to our lives right now. Because these are friends you made and they just appreciated you for what you do. Not because of your money and all that, but at the end of the day, they saw what you're doing and they came around for your events. You got to be known. When you're in a boys' school, it's very hard for you to, massively get to know people from other schools. And by virtue of where we are, it was impossible to network a lot during school. So it was through these events that we got to meet and get exposed to other individuals in other schools, start building your network, and kind of that's where we are right now. So I think for me, really, it was just wanted to look cool at the end of the day, and I believe it paid off.
And I think regarding the social capital is mentioned, I think community has been a really big part of your journey, which we shall get back to a bit later.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to know was your journey has been anything but linear, right? Because especially in a normal African household, you finish school, go to university, get a proper course, look for a job, and continue, right? What made you take this non-linear journey into, saying that okay, I want my journey to go in this direction?
Personally, I think I'll speak for me. School was a challenge. I had something I always call my canon event in my senior two, where I was forced to repeat my S3, and that for me was a canon event in that it changed a lot of how my life played out. So you find that even from that time on, school was always a challenge. And I didn't relate so much when it comes to academia. And I think that's something my parents also saw. In that, I told my dad one time that, you send me to this and, to be a bunch of retakes coming through in and out. So I think he appreciated that a bit early. And it was easy for him to accept me to, take that route and, experiment on what's out there. I think it's really important when it comes to, parents to be self-aware of what their child is. I don't rate individuals based off just their academics. I do believe it's still a qualification, especially where we are, given the disadvantages we have as a community, as a country. I would not recommend someone not to go to school and study and actually try to achieve, because it does help. It gives a bit of margin. But I think me personally, I just didn't relate so much with school, and there was an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I would want to say that if maybe circumstances were different, but I think it was just a situation that was unique to me alone, and that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at.
Okay, super cool. And from there, at what point did you realize that, hey, I actually have to take this seriously because it's part of my survival, right? Because if you are building something, it's fun until money is involved, and you have to now actually make it sustainable. So at what point did you feel like what I'm building right now is leading to something that could actually become a business or become a venture that I'm part of?
Yeah. During my early times of when I used to read, I read, which I'm trying to do so now again. Taking a pause. But there's a particular quote of a gentleman called Scott Gallo where he said that if you're playing in the creative industry, for you to actually make it, you have to be within the top 1% of individuals. Because even actors, and I was talking to my team recently, there's an actor that's going, I'm not sure of his name, but he came out and mentioned the fact that he's featured in a few blockbuster movies. I think even the Marvel universe, or DC, one of the two. But he's failing to sustain what he's doing. And I think the challenge there is that for you to make it in this industry, in the creative industry, you have to be within the top 1%. And that cuts across things like music, things like film. Only top 1% A-list actors are able to actually sustain some of the things they get to do. So when I looked at this industry, when I looked at gaming, I saw how dope it was. I saw how good it was. I thought it was something that I wanted to partake in. But it came early to me that this industry, natively, based off where we are, profitability is a wish. It may not be something. So we dived deep and made sure that as much as we did what we did, sustainability was something we focused on. Making sure that we create other revenue sources within our organization to sustain ourselves and keep building on that. So I think sustainability has always been a core fundamental of most of our activities. Whenever we do something, we always ask ourselves that, okay, is this good for business? Is this something that's going to help us scale? Does it have a return? So you find that as you grow, obviously in the first 2-3 years it's a bit hard, but I would say even I think in the 7 years, 3 years were really bootstrapping. There was not much. I think that was during COVID, so we could kind of bootstrap a lot of what we did, and we focused more on sustainable ways of building our brand, which was content creation. And some of the verticals I've shown you, coming up with a PC building arm, coming up with a creator arm where we can build a bunch of experience as well. One of the ways we started looking at, okay, now these things can really bring something in to sustain a few of our efforts far beyond just the gaming.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And I think for those who might not know, the most downloaded app in Uganda is how many of us know Matatu, the card game, right? It's actually the most downloaded app,
Yeah.
and most people don't know, right? And I even saw a couple of people here start googling if they can make money using fantasy football on their phone, right? But my question is on the side of monetization, right? A lot of people see the gaming industry as an entertainment industry, right? But I recently saw an article where the gaming industry in Africa reached about 1.8 billion market size, and it's one of the most it's one of the industries that's growing at a very drastic pace, right? For someone who says, okay, I'm into gaming, but where do I even start in terms of like monetizing that skill, right? To take it seriously, what kind of advice would you give such a person?
Well, that's a tough question. Why I say it's tough is because there is no blueprint to sustainability in gaming. There's something called the gaming hierarchy. So normally the people who are able to see profit in this industry directly are the publishers, the individuals that make these games. Because when you make a game, you're able to sell it. Companies like Activision, Riot, they're able to sell games and then people procure, and that's the transaction. So after that, you have the players. Now, players who get to make money from gaming are individuals who are doing things like streaming, content creation, esports, things of that sort. But the challenge is when you look at our local market here, it's sad to say, but it would be very difficult for me to come out and recommend that someone partakes in this industry, especially if they have not built a certain depth of knowledge about the industry and where the opportunities are. When you look at our products, Arudem Gaming is not, when we look at its KPIs, revenue is not one of them. Arudem Gaming's KPI is to build a community, not to bring in money. We get to host a few esports tournaments and a few esports events that do bring in something, but at the end of the day, we don't put it at the level of something that has to bring a return. And we got to realize products like creators and origami are the ones that are able to bring in money for us as a business.
Yes.
So if it comes to advising someone to partake in the gaming industry and build a career around it, one, I think it's build a lot of knowledge about this industry because it's vast, it's wide. It's the biggest entertainment industry, combining music and sports. So there are various verticals in which someone can make a return, but it's important that you make an informed decision. I wouldn't come out and tell someone that, go build a career in gaming because there are not so many companies you get to work for locally. Even individuals are looking at maybe game testing or game development. It's a process, and if you go out and try to develop a game here in Uganda, I would advise that financially speaking, because it does take quite a lot. But it's because of our understanding of the industry, we have now been able to craft. It's taken us 7 years, by the way, to come up with this product list. For the past 6, we've been bootstrapping, and we did have what most people call, I think, an MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've basically been in R&D for the most part, and now we're confident that, oh, these are the products we want to front. So picking up a career in gaming, do as much research as you can. Look at local markets, look at it from a local context. Don't reference a lot to that step, because most people come out and say that gaming is a $1 billion industry. But when you look at local consumption, even from a PS5, for example, very few people here are buying original, like new PS5s. Most people here are buying used, or second hand or refurbished or something of the sort. So we don't aggressively directly contribute to that $1 billion status of the industry. When you look at the game servers, we don't have game servers in our regions. Our games like Call of Duty have about maybe 3 to 2 servers locally in areas like I think actually South Africa is the only sub-Saharan. That's the only actually that region, South Africa. That's the only place where they recognize gaming in Africa. That's why most individuals who have tried to, maybe those that use PlayStation, there's something they call PSN or PlayStation Network when you're trying to buy bundles or games. I'm sure I don't use console a lot, but there's something that most people try to buy and they can't buy. I think it's Game Pass. They can't buy it locally because your visa can't be recognized. So sometimes you're forced to go online, buy it from a third party individual, and then upload it to your console. So at the end of the day, what does that show you when you're looking at the market? You're not contributing to their revenue directly. Indirectly, maybe you are because you're buying it from someone who has, bought it from them also. But directly, they don't recognize us as a region. East Africa doesn't have any AAA title game servers, not even in Nairobi. And Nigeria recently got a Call of Duty mobile server, I believe. So you find it that this is an industry that's still growing, and playing in it right now is mainly from a research angle. I wouldn't recommend someone jump into it for sustainability. It's really difficult. And I do know there are a few exemptions where, you may catch a big break and maybe a studio, calls you over, or you may even join the Arudem team, maybe. But I think for the most part, it's something that you need to go in with an informed mind and, make a decision along those lines. And, when I say this, sometimes most industry stakeholders do take it as, oh, I'm not doing my part to grow the industry. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't want a child convincing their parent that, Mom, I would want to pick up a career in gaming because I've seen what Arudem is doing. And then they think it's that direct. Even the individuals that are doing streaming and they're making money from gaming, you have to be in the top 1%. So a child focusing up on this industry at that stage, I would definitely recommend because within gaming, it kind of exposes you to a lot of tech. But I would also advise that they have extra areas in which they are investing within the industry. Just like us, we realized that, okay, we could do the gaming, but let's have a creator section where we're able to come up with a bunch of things within creators to add more to, what gaming is. So I think that's kind of what I would say around, picking up a career in this space.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think talking about being in the top 1%, it's seen across different boards, right? Whether you're an employee, you want to rise up the ranks of the corporate space, or you're an entrepreneur, right? But before we head into that direction, you mentioned community a couple of times, right? And I'm sure here the entrepreneurs who really rely on, a group of people to basically vouch for their product, right? Majorly in Western countries, you see people who do crowdfunding through a community they've built to launch a product. You don't rely on traditional investment, right? And you see a couple of, businesses that actually rely on their community to build businesses, right? So in that sense, to what level do you think community is important in the entrepreneurship space? But also, what benefits do you get? So earlier you mentioned that you don't need to hire, right? You already have really talented individuals that you already vouch for that you could just pull in for projects, right? So what would be the need for a community, and how do you think someone could navigate around building that?
I think community is the new currency, especially if you're looking at a business at startup level. We've later on got to realize what people call community brands. These are micro businesses, these are micro brands that could have a community of about 5,000 individuals, And out of those 5,000, they have 1,000 who are paying customers. So at the end of the day, they're able to sustain what they're doing and also make a profit from it. So communities are substitutes to someone competing in the big leagues of looking at companies that have been here over the years. And that's the age that we have over these companies. The age that you have over a company that's been in business for 40 years and has managed to build a market presence for itself is the fact that you have a community that's loyal to you and willing to support you along the way. And this is something we're seeing, and I think it's a new trend in the entrepreneurship space and the startup space. And I think a bunch of entrepreneurs should tap on it. We see it even in the sports world, and even when you look at in the blockchain space, the Web3 space, a lot of the efforts that are pushed are community driven, and that if you want to break through, because at the end of the day, you can't compete with some companies that have established their markets worldwide. The reason as to why someone may buy a PC from Origami and not Dell is because they're part of the Arudem community. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is what Dell is doing. Dell builds a computer, ships it to you, you buy it from someone on Kampala Road. But here we're offering an alternative whereby, okay, this is locally built and we're pushing out to you. So community has, over the past few years, become something various individuals are leveraging on to formulate and build their market. Because it's really expensive, especially when you want to market yourself these days. Companies are going all in. You may think social media ads are a thing. A company like Google is spending a ton on that already. So for you to compete is really through the community you get to build. And your second question was how you get to build it. One, a good presentation, have a good brand, and look good at the end of the day. People want to affiliate with things that look amazing. One of the things we stood out for when we started was representation. We realized that within the gaming industry, gamers wanted representation. There was a massive stereotype around gaming whereby if someone comes out and says, "Oh, I'm a gamer," they'll be looked at as nerdy, geeky, someone in the basement eating crisps, high in a mountain view. That was like the basic norm. But one thing we set out to do is representation, and me being here and me speaking to entrepreneurs about gaming is something that gamers are looking at and they're like, yeah, at the end of the day, representation is key. Individuals who come from a few minority groups are looking for someone to step up and represent them. And that's one of the ways in which you get to build community. So for us, we've leveraged that to make sure that we are able to represent gamers in areas that they may not be represented. And they get to see that, okay, this is someone I can talk to a colleague about and reference. Even a child going to their mom is like, oh, by the way, gaming is a growing product in Uganda. Look up Arudem. And then when the mom goes to our pages and our content and whatever we're pushing out there, she's able to see and be like, okay, this is something. So then that child is, yes, mom, I'm part of that community. So it kind of, for me, that's kind of how we've done it, really. We've focused a lot on representation. We've focused a lot on content and trying to show as much as we can. Even within such a space, like I told you earlier, we have a series called The Humble Startup. This is a gaming brand, and the way we find ourselves in the day, we're a startup. So we're trying to also tap into this ecosystem, and we're trying to be appreciated from that front. And content has been a massive pillar. And raw content, really, vlog style. We have Moses here. We invested a lot in our hardware when it comes to recording and capturing footage. So we have really invested in that area to see that whatever we put out is something someone can watch, get inspired by, and would want to be part of our community and be part of what we're building. So content is a good avenue for community building. And I think the other would be, representation. Represent yourself well, look dope, be a brand someone wants to relate with. I think it's really key.
Yeah.
And I think if there's anything you could take out from this conversation is brand is massively important. And how you present yourself, going that extra mile. And something that most founders tend to shy away from, personally, where I believe that I was able to get exposed to design. I did graphic design, but I didn't practice it for a year or two. I didn't really practice it but it unlocked something in me. I always say that graphics design unlocked my creative eye. So founders and maybe startup founders, if I could say, at the end of the day, you're selling a product. You have to come up with something and put it out there to sell it. So there could be a lot of things you're doing in the back end that a lot of your market may not appreciate, but they're going to appreciate how you present your product. So because of the fact that product is still the end all be all, I'd recommend that founders really tap into the design space. And I think this is something that also I got to read somewhere that Steve Jobs also looked at it. He mentioned that the iPhone may not look the way it looks now if he did do a course in typography, something of the sort. So at the end of the day, design is key. Design is massively fundamental. I think there should be a role for look at our graphic designers as graphics designers, but one of our competitive edges is in our design and how we present ourselves.
Yeah.
And that stems from the person starting this up. You may hire a graphic designer, but he does not look at your product, your brand the way you do. So I think opening your creative eye and really tapping into design is massively important. See how best you can be exposed to the design world. I think design is a fundamental for everyone in this digital era. There should not be a moment in time where you can't open up. I think now there are a bunch of tools, Canva and all that. But I think that may look, it's making things simpler because, back in our time, we had things like Adobe and Photoshop and Illustrator. But now it has set the bar so low that anyone can jump in. But the challenge that I see is that there's going to be a lot of repetition. You're not going to be able to come up with something that's different. So the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you have that creative eye. And always find a way of tweaking. Then they're using Canva, you're able to recommend that, okay, use this type of font, use this type of presentation. So I think for me, that's something I'd love to add on.
Yeah, so I think if we're to reflect, starting with the community, I think one is it's building credibility and validation through actual people, right? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're either selling a product or a service, which means by gaining that credibility from people who are already following your work, right? When you extend, I think the best kind of marketing comes from when it's organic, right?
Yeah.
The way you said, a kid going to his mom and saying, "Hey, mom, I need to be part of this," right? Or going to, a friend of yours and saying, "You should try this out," right? That's the best way of marketing a product. And how best can you do it than creating a community that vouches for you? I think it's Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb, who said that instead of having 100,000 people that sort of like you, get 100 people that absolutely love you, right? And these are the guys who eventually push out your product, market for you, and you don't have to hire advertising agencies, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's quite important in terms of like credibility, validation, but also just having people who push your product out there, right? That's what you would call a product market fit at some point. But
could I tap into that?
Yeah, sure.
Just to really focus a bit on the community aspect. I don't see someone moving forward. I don't see a business, I don't see a brand that's not really community focused making it. Because that's something that we may not be seeing, but indirectly most of these Fortune 500 companies are trying to tap into. I would love that you go look at some of the websites or some of the brands that you follow. There's a community tab somewhere, and there is a platform on which they're building that community. Some normally use Discord, some opt for WhatsApp. I mean, look at WhatsApp communities coming up. At the end of the day, community has to be within your company structure. And I'll come out and say that we have a bigger job to play. I feel like in the last year, I'll give you a scenario. We focused more on sustainability, and we kind of lost a bit of the sync we had built with our community. Mm-hmm. And that really took a bit of a hit. We found that the individuals that are willing to support us a few years back, you'd now call upon, and they would not be willing to do so because, they had this thing of, we have gone corporate fast, and that's something we really, took into account going into this year. That's why we decided that one of our arms, which is Arudem Gaming, is going to only focus on community. Mm. And by that, what do I mean? We're not going to sell them anything apart from things that are really bringing value to them. Yeah. We're going to focus on things that they're interested in. Most gamers are interested in things like anime. most gamers are interested in a bunch of pop culture aspects. So having things like anime watch parties, having things like I don't know, maybe a bunch of basketball events, because realize most of our community members are into basketball. So realize we're doing these things that are diverting us aggressively away from our core focus as a business, but we're doing them such that we keep our community around. Sometimes when you keep asking and just pushing out and pushing out, and there's no value you're bringing to your community, startup founders should have. If you realize most of your community members are into pickup or they're into soccer, I think football is a massive thing here in Uganda. So come up and be like, oh, we're having an Arudem Man U versus Chelsea watch party at this venue. So in that, it really kind of creates a bit of more. Even someone who may not be buying your product now may get to know you from that opportunity, and then down the road they could become one of your clients. I think community is really important, and I would recommend that you all go read about it in your own ways because it's specific to your brand and your business. I think it will be a massive game changer for most people when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And secondly is you've mentioned quite a lot in terms of branding and how you present yourself, right? I think the audience could testify that this is not a template on the presentation. Usually when I see people presenting things, they go to Google and they say, give me a catchy PowerPoint template. And they get it and they add their pictures, right? And something you could notice about Arudem is how their branding is quite top-notch, right? And usually I don't think we put enough effort. I don't know, because if it's a culture around where people associate good branding with expensive things and they just get scared, or they attach branding with credibility, that if they see good branding, they're like, these guys are serious, right? Because the other time, a friend of mine wanted to buy a PC, and instead of actually looking at the PCs, he was looking at the logos of the companies, and he was like, well, this one looks sketchy. But he just looked at the good branding and he was like, I need to go here, right? So how much do you think branding plays in terms of catching the eye of your customers or community members or people who would be interested in what you do? And also share some tips on how we could get inspired to also, design such PowerPoint slides.
All right. That's not a PowerPoint slide, right?
Yeah.
But so there's someone called Maverick. Most of you may not know him, but he's one of the reasons why LeBron James, who's an NBA player, managed to hit I think billionaire status. Could be 2 years back. Maverick has been the face of LeBron off the court. Mm-hmm. So when LeBron is on the court, Maverick is handling his money. There's something that they say. I've forgotten to say. Yeah. But Maverick basically, he talked about quality, and he said that quality is not a synonym for expensive, but a representation of the lots of love and craft that has gone into something. So that speaks into brand. So when most people see something that's quality, they tend to, lean it more towards the expensive route, which is not the case. And then they can come up with a quality piece at a very cost-effective price. So I think that alone for me opened up my mind when it comes to quality, that at the end of the day, if you want to show someone that you're specific about what you're building, if you'd love me to take your product serious and take you serious, how you present it to me matters. Because at the end of the day, I was dealing with a service provider here in Uganda, and I think they're doing a particular solution that I may not mention. But they're providing a service to me, but the way they were providing it, was so lukewarm. It was not in depth. And you find that I had to do extra research around that service for me to be able to find out even more than they know. And then I told one of my colleagues that in Uganda, most service providers, you're really at the mercy of their willingness to research about a product. Case in point, you may get someone providing a CCTV camera solution to you. And, most CCTV camera providers here are, let's say, individuals that are buying already existing systems from the market, and they're like resellers or agents. And you find that these systems are already there, and there's quite a lot that one has to go in depth. So if you get a solution from a particular provider, a CCTV camera provider, and they give you a system that, okay, this is how you need to manage your cameras, they give you the basics. So you find that there's so many things you don't know, and then you're not able to, figure out a few configurations, and there's this whole back and forth. And that's like the standard most, that's how service provision in Uganda is kind of. So that for me really goes back to how deep is someone focused on when it comes to what they're providing. So how you present yourself, how you present your brand, how you present, your particular product really goes deep into how much you're passionate about it. If you go to some of the good restaurants, and maybe not here, but out there, the few that I've seen, if you go to a really good restaurant and you ask, oh, who's actually cooking this food, they will tell you it's a restaurant owner. You get, because it's amazing food, and you're like, okay, this is a good dish. Who's cooking? You would find out for the most part, it's always the person who owns the restaurant is the same person cooking the food. So that shows you that the only way they are able to produce such quality of food is because they're really particular. They love what they're doing. So presentation really reflects to how much you buy into your brand. I would not want to be part of your brand and love it more than you. I don't think that makes sense. If you're selling to me a product that you don't love, a friend of mine today told me that Studio has this thing of, I don't know if it's true, but apparently creates businesses with this notion of, I'm creating a facility where I can take my family and my wife to hang. And you find that most people create businesses here and maybe spaces, and then themselves can't use. I think a few weeks back we had the hangout, and I was using one of the PCs, and the experience was not as appealing. And I told all of my colleagues, like, yo, we need to figure this out, because even me as a user, I was not satisfied by sitting in this chair. The user experience was not it for me.
Yeah.
And I believe that if I can feel that way, that does not stop anyone else from our community to feel that way and not come around. So I think it's really important that we really lean into how we present ourselves. It's massively important. I think it will be one of the ways in which you have an edge over your competitors, because most people always play the lazy card of just flagging something out. And not just in your business, but even you as an individual, how you present yourself. Keep working on yourself. I feel like we all have various struggles that limit us in terms of presentation, capacity-wise. But it's kind of a never-ending journey of improvement. So I think it's really important that we lean into that more. And I think when it comes to tips, I think care about what you're doing, because there are various ways in which you can produce something. Be very particular about how you present your product, because at the end of the day, like I told you, if you don't present your product well and someone can see that this person put this up but they don't love it enough, so why should I purchase it? It's like when you purchase a particular product, maybe there's this notion of always a Chinese products, because these Chinese individuals are putting something together to push it out. They may not really focus on the detail. But most of the startups we're building, it's important that we start looking at them in an artistic way. When an artist is sitting and they're working on their piece, there's a level of depth, that comes with it. So I think even business, even entrepreneurship, and these are some of the lessons that you can tap into from concepts outside entrepreneurship and business. Look at art. Find a way of building your company in an artistic way. Even the structures. We look at structures and they get a bit boring, but look at them a bit artistically and appreciate the flow of efficiency that comes with setting up proper structures for your business. So I think it's really important when it comes to how best you can work on your branding, and get to know that the thing that I mentioned earlier of you have to be within the top 1%. Also realize that you're in the market you're in. Being in Uganda right now, you have to ask yourself that, is Uganda the biggest market for the product I'm doing? You could be the biggest brand in a particular industry in Uganda, but guys, Uganda is a small market. And you have to kind of set your standards slightly higher. So when you realize as a brand that at the end of the day, we have two areas of focus in terms of market. We have West Africa and East Africa. I need to know that the product I'm coming up with, if I want to tap into a West African market, this is a big league market. You have countries like Ghana, Nigeria being one of the top countries out there after South Africa. If you want to compete with a Nigerian brand, a Nigerian product, and I'll speak mainly for gaming, we had to set ourselves up in a particular way. In that, when someone looks at our product, they believe that, okay, this is something that's there's something that can fit in this market. This is something that looks international. So we don't set our standard based off where we're located. We more or less set our standard based off the markets we want to play in. Because at the end of the day, we have this thing of we have to play the big leagues. We're already a creative business. We're in the gaming industry. We're, let's say, one of the first brands in Africa. But 10 years down the road, people would have picked up on this. So it will be, and I don't believe the gaming industry is that vast that it can accommodate 20 top gaming brands in its market. So you find out that our prediction that if, let's say, gaming has grown as an industry in the next 15, 20 years, if Microsoft comes down and is looking for a local implementer for that gaming division, they're going to focus up on top 1% companies, So out of 20, they may only pick 5. So at the end of the day, we have to know that as a brand, we need to set ourselves up to be in that top 1% class. And that has a lot to do with our presentation. We have people from Nigeria reaching out to us and saying, we'd love to work with you. We'd love to, can you guys have something this side? So for us, that's validation. And okay, guys, this is a step in the right direction. We have checked that box. So that has been a game changer. And at the end of the day, like I told you, our desire is to be within that certain class. Someone's really going to evaluate you based off, front face value. The moment they see a pitch from you, most pitches are really, words and all that, but like, I believe maybe we're a bit visual creatures, and you're attracted to what you see. Some of the experience won't even carry out. I told my design team that we should really get a billboard and just see. We'll look at it, to validate our design and make sure that our design is on point. So I think branding is massively important. How you present yourself is massively important. For startups that are trying to bootstrap, focus up there first. What was a game changer for me, and I think I'll tell you this, is that we did focus on product. There is this rush for young companies or even startups to come up with a product. But if you're someone who's fresh out of school, first focus on building your market. And building your market doesn't mean you need a product. We built for 2 years without a product. We just built a community of individuals that would affiliate with a brand. And now later on, we're converting that into a market for our products. So I think it's important that if you don't have capital to grow your business, if you don't have the financing, don't really focus up there. Focus up on the basics. We sometimes put all our resources into our product. We neglect the marketing. Product is done. We don't have runway to push us after the product. We can't market it. It stalls. You could also do some research. A few businesses that I've seen, Fortune 500 level, really just started. And by starting is not just, just go out there and do something, but build a community, build a market. In the meantime, you may want to come up with, I don't know, maybe what example can I use? Like, let me just use like a soap brand, or maybe like, could you give me an example? Any startups that you have here?
I think it could be like somewhere in the lines of product design, like even like an AI sales agent.
Okay, maybe let's say AI sales agent. So I think that's you need something. There's a product designer called Paul, and he told me one thing, that we need enablers, things that get us through the market. So an enabler is something that enables you penetrate the market. It may not be your product. It's what enables you get through the market. So your enabler could be maybe for an AI farm. I would recommend that. Right now, AI has so many terminologies. The use cases are still being built locally. So going in aggressively with a product may be a bit hard to get you that market appreciation, because most people are not yet there. It's a growing industry. You could focus up on AI content and do a bunch of content around AI and start building a community around that without super focusing on a product. If maybe you're doing a design agency and you want to maybe break out and do something in that front, and you don't have clients, instead of maybe going out there hiring marketing reps, sales reps, looking for business, start doing a bunch of things around, start creating a bunch of content, market yourself, put yourself out there. I'm trying to bring it out for, but maybe I use Arudem as an example. Like I said, we didn't start with a product. We literally just started pushing out YouTube videos of gameplay. I have people who know me because they saw me playing Call of Duty on Instagram, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, man, this is how I got to know," and I started following me from there. And now down the road, that individual is buying a machine from me. I'll give me a practical example. NBS is one of our clients. We onboarded them last year, and they've been transitioning from, I think, Mac to Windows, and they've been building a bunch of Windows machines. So how did they get to know me? They didn't get to know me by me advertising PC, that, oh, we build PCs and all that. They got to know me through a community event. One of their IT personnel came around and was able to, it was a casual event.
Yeah.
And then the day he recommended us to his company that, oh, by the way, there are these kids who have these machines. I think they could build a solution for you. So I think that for me, looking at that really is, don't focus. If you don't have the capital, because we didn't have the capital to build these machines, we're just getting this capital now from a few funds, but we didn't have it. So we couldn't have a prototype. So we focused on building a brand, building a community, and then down the road, now we're able to come out with a product. So where there's no cash, there's no financing, that should not stop you from starting. Start building your brand. Open up a page, do some content, do some bit of R&D in the meantime, and let people get to know you. Such that by the time you have a product, there are 1, 2, 3 people in line maybe willing to purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just to reflect on a couple of points to highlight, which is, one, you talked about being a user of your own product, right? Because to truly appreciate what's being built, you have to actually experience it yourself, right? I mean, looking at big brands in Uganda, like even Cafe Javas, for example. I'm not mentioning it because I'm hungry, but you look at like the owner Mandela, sometimes seeing him in the corner, even serving to a certain extent, right? It's how much obsessed they are over the product you're building, right? So I think even Paul Graham, he's one of the co-founders of Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator. He talked about something between founder mode and manager mode, right? I think you should definitely read that article. It basically talks about why someone should always be on founder mode to take their company to the next level, because manager mode is just making sure operations is okay, you're getting in the revenue, but to truly innovate, you always have to be in the founder mode, right? True. And I think before, I'm sure like a lot of our audience are eager to ask a couple of questions. I just had one last question, which is, you talked about a young kid who's like 11 years old who could build a PC and all that stuff. Can you mention a story from Arudem that has drastically impacted someone's life through the work you're doing? And the follow-up to that is, if you knew you wouldn't fail, or if you had unlimited resources, what problem would you solve?
If
you had unlimited resources, or if you knew you wouldn't fail, what problem would you solve?
I think I'll start with that.
Yeah.
I think it's education. The knowledge gap that's between us and where the world wants us to be is massive, and sometimes it's sad to see that I don't want to play the card of, oh, it's the education system, because at the end of the day, that's something that has been sung over the years. But I think we have a massive gap when it comes to our education.
Yep.
And not just education in terms of career, but education in terms of being a human being. And, from business, really. Education around what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be someone in society, a general human being. I think there's a gap there, and there's a way we have underrated some of the teachings of maybe our early people in the earlier times. And yes, you could say some of the things, some of their ways of life may not be as practical, especially as we get to know and get more information of how things play out in the world. But I think something I'd really love to change is education at that grassroots level, and not class education, but education around how an 11-year-old grows up to being a teenager, and then grows up to being a father.
Yeah.
And what does that actually mean?
That transition. Yeah.
Because that contributes a lot to who you are, even within your businesses. So I personally see a gap there, and I think it will be interesting to see particular institutes that are coming up that are focused up on that.
Yeah.
And it may not be so aggressive. I know sometimes we always look at it from an aspect of, oh, this is how it should be, but something a bit open-minded and mainly giving someone an opportunity to find out who they are early, because we're in a competitive field. Right now, the market out there, the kids out there, the individuals out there are doing quite a lot. So it's important that even us here, we tap into that early, get young children exposed a bit early, get to expose them on how to workshop the type of life they want to have. I think you don't have to start workshopping the type of life you want to have at 18, at 23, at 30. If we could tap into that, a 16-year-old really can get into this workshop, because we do a lot of personal development now. I think this is something that I believe everyone here has tapped into. But imagine that journey started late for some people.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of benefits and fruits from it. So what if that's something that, someone grew up knowing that, okay, reading is a thing that we look at as, oh, you have to read, yeah? But if you imagine that we had a dope reading culture, whereby at that early age, you're mentored into reading. It's amazing. Personally, I'll be honest with you, I've been a culprit when it comes to reading. I've been very lazy, but the first few weeks and months have told me that I need to work on that. And the few people I've interacted with that are readers, there's a certain level of depth. I know we may say that, okay, we consume content, we watch content, but a reader is just different. So that level of personal development and personal growth, I feel like if I had unlimited resources, come up with an institute, get some specific key thought leaders in particular industries in there, people within that therapeutic space, talk to people, clinical psychiatrists, so we get to understand more, get to understand more of yourself and how you reason and why you do some of the things you do. So yeah, that's something I think I'm passionate about, and if you have an opportunity,
Yeah.
we do it. It's no brainer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
What was the other question?
So the second question was, any person within the Arudem community that you think their lives have been drastically impacted through the work you're doing? Yeah.
I think I would look at the team behind the product we're building. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't have things like interviews and sit-down sessions and some of the bureaucratic steps, which I think are important, by the way. But we don't have some of those in terms of our structure. We normally, literally today, we went to UCU to see someone who's a potential candidate to join the team.
Yeah.
We were up in Mukono, 5 a.m. We did some work in Mukono. Went to UCU, and we sat down. We sat down with her, and just generally asked her, man, how's your life? How are things? And what are you looking at? How do you want to be part of the brand and all that? So I'll look at the impact and the work we've done with the team that we have built. Very many of these individuals enter this industry thinking that it's going to be just vibes, because it's gaming, so it's fun. It's wake up in the morning, play video games, and do this, do that, read about this blog and all that. But there's been a lot of maturity in terms of how these individuals look at the world professionally, and it's amazing that that's something that the brand has managed to do, because it requires someone to process things at that level in order to be part of this team. So most people jumping into the entertainment industry, and that's why it's very difficult to build a product in this industry, is that most people really look at it from an aspect of, oh, it's entertainment, it's fun. But I feel like that's only realized at a certain level. At point of inception, there's quite a lot that someone has to do. The boring stuff, really.
Yeah.
So seeing that a few individuals on the team have managed to mature in terms of how they look at things professionally, how they present themselves, and also given the fact that, we have this thing of, guys, Arudem is not a place you come to work, but it's the only place, and I could be wrong, and I hope I'm corrected down the road, but currently I feel like it's the only place where individuals that would want to build particular creative products can come and actually see them to life. So we are building a platform. Those that get to work with it, most of the people that get to join the team, someone will come to you and say that I'm an animator and I want to animate. But being an animator in Uganda and profiting from it, it's quite hard. So we provide that platform. You come and join the team and I'm like, you're an animator. This is how you're going to add into your skill set by rendering that to this brand. And indirectly, it's going to push you here. So I've seen some of the members of the team that came in as animators and have managed to now cross paths with various other animators in the industry. And they may have not gotten that opportunity if they stuck it out on their own because there was no platform. So I think when it comes to impact for me is that every member of the team, me inclusive, we've managed to benefit uniquely in our own ways. We've uniquely and I think that's when it comes to human resource, it's a massive way of motivating your staff. Money could be one thing and all that, which I really understand, and obviously the perks and all that. But if someone is able to realize their passion and their efforts within your brand and actually scale them within your business, that's the biggest value you can provide them, because now you've offered them a platform. Yes, they're working for, but then they also add more value in something they're interested in. So when someone steps in here and say, what are you interested in? What do you want to see happen for yourself? Someone can be like, oh, I want to be a 3D illustrator, or I want to be a digital artist. I'm telling you that within gaming, digital art is a no-brainer. There's an opportunity for you. So tap in. So I think that's seeing that day in, day out for me is an over, I would say it's an unlimited impact that the brand is able to have on people. Having someone come out of UCU and they want to pursue a career in this industry, but they're not seeing where. And because of how dynamic, most of the things we're dealing with are really abstract, one-of-ones in my opinion. And they expose us to quite a lot. Gaming personally has exposed me to so many fundamentals of business that maybe business school may not have, given. So I think as an industry, that's how wide gaming is. That even without 3 verticals, anyone, regardless of what they're doing, can find a role. And because of how we're uniquely building it, they're able to realize their passion, realize their craft at a certain level. And that's really dope to see at the end of the day.
Okay, amazing.